Okay guys, welcome to another episode of Nigerian Kitchen, the tiny Nigerian Kitchen. Today I'm going to be making egusi soup with pounded yam. That's right guys, today I am making another soup and swallows episode, and I'm making egusi soup specifically with pounded yam. Egusi is melon seeds, so the egusi soup is made from melon seeds, and you tend to add leaves in. So I will jump in and start introducing today's ingredients. The melon seeds look a little bit like this. We're going to be grounding that up and frying it, and then we are going to be making similar to the normal peppers mix or stew that I normally make, but today no tomatoes, so we want it a little bit drier today. So it's just going to be the bell peppers, and I'm actually going to use 2 of those, and 1 onion, and the atarodo, so there's chili. Then we're also going to be using today crayfish in our recipe. So these are dried crayfish. We're going to grind those up and pour it into our stew for extra flavor, along with, of course, stock cubes or bouillon or whatever you want to use to add the extra flavor to this soup. We've got the palm oil, which again we're going to use to fry and get some of that traditional flavor. And today seeds are featuring a lot. This thing is in English called locust, fermented locust bean, and I think the tree it grows on is native to a lot of West Africa. I'm not sure I've ever seen it anywhere else in the world apart from in Nigeria. So you don't have to use it if you can't have access to it. But again, this just reminds me a little of the flavour of the egusi soups I used to eat when I was young. Slightly earthy, a little woody, slight sweetness, unusual. I can't compare it to anything else I've ever eaten. Quite a strong aroma actually. The meats we're going to be using today, I've got some mutton. I bought this from an Indian shop, so it's actually been a little bit spiced. That's why it's got the colour. But this is just mutton. And then Nigerians love cooking with dried fish. I think again it's because the flavours get really concentrated. So today I've got 3 different types of dried seafood. I've got this, which I know in Yoruba is panla. I think it's saltfish, dried codfish. This I bought locally. I'm not sure which type of fish it is, but again it's a dried salted fish. This was from the local Cantonese market. Then of course I've got dried prawns. I think that's all the ingredients. No, I almost forgot. Spinach leaves. So egusi soup often features some form of leaf. Sometimes it's bitter leaf, pumpkin leaves. I'm using spinach today. I think we're good to go. So let's start cooking. Okay, first thing is to tackle the meat. So I'm going to put that in a pressure cooker and get that cooking for about 20 minutes. So that will get the meat nice and tender. Put that in, add a little bit of onion, a little bit of water, and I will add a little bit of salt, and that's it. So that's gonna go in now for about 25 minutes. Next is ata or stew, red pepper stew. So chop. Okay, so I've now chopped up 1 onion and 2 bell peppers. Like I said, this is a little bit different to the ata you would have seen me make in other episodes where I've also added in tomatoes. Today, no tomatoes. We're gonna keep it relatively dry, and I will add in my atarodo, the Scotch bell pepper, and we're gonna blitz this. Okay, that's all done. It's combined, it's a nice thick mixture. Next is to grind up our melon seeds. You can use whatever grinder you have to hand. So we want to basically make it into a powder. There we go. Great, so we've got our melon seed all powdered up. Now we need to add a little bit of water to this to make it a really thick paste. So I'm just going to combine a little bit at a time. And actually my grinder doesn't grind super fine, which in some situations is really good, and others not as good. This is one situation where it would be nice to get it really fine powder, but this will still be fine. Time to start frying. Okay, so I'm going to add in a little bit of palm oil. So I want just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. I'm gonna add in some onions. Fry that for about a minute. Okay, I'm now gonna add some of this fermented locust bean. So I just want to get some of that locust bean flavor to get into the oil. Okay, so I'm now going to pour in the atta. Now, to be honest, this is normally made in a much bigger pot because it's a stew in a sense, or soup. But because I'm going to want to try and reduce some of the liquid in this, it's much easier to do actually in this wide base pan. That looks so good. Look at that color, that redness. Woo! So I'm going to cover that and let it cook for about 10 minutes and reduce a little bit before we add in our egusi. Okay, so this has been frying and reducing now for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to add some of the stock for flavor. There we go. A little pinch of salt. And now to add in the egusi. Now it's a little bit like making dumplings. Right, I want to make balls and put them in. So I don't really want to disturb it. I want it to really fry through and soak in a lot of that stew and oil. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to cover that and let it cook through for about 15 minutes. And then we're going to finish off. Okay, while that's cooking away, there's a few things I'm going to do. One is soak the dried fish, so that'll be ready to dump straight into the stew once this is done. The other is the crayfish still needs to be powdered up, and that's also going to be added in. And then I also need to wash and chop up the spinach. So first, soak in the fish. Woo. So this is just to rehydrate the dried fish a little bit. I'm going to leave that to the side. Next is to grind up our crayfish to powder it. Okay, pour that in. And we're done. Okay, so for the spinach, I'm just going to roughly chop it and then wash it. And then it'll be ready to dump into the soup, which is cooking away. Now this is not young, tender, rocket type spinach. It's quite hardy, which is the type you need for a soup as robust as this. So I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna have some of the stalk go in as well because I do want some of the roughage and fiber. Okay, so let's give this a good wash. Okay, spinach washed and ready to go in. So just a few more minutes and we can start combining everything. While I remember, quick shout out to Brian, who is from Hong Kong, and he requested that I make this egusi soup. He wrote in and said he's heard it's a really popular dish in Nigeria and it's not wrong. So Brian, today is especially for you. Okay, let's give this a check. Yeah, this is cooked through. It's a lot firmer. Now it will break up, of course, once we start mixing everything together. But we just want to cook it through a little bit first. So the first thing we're going to add in is meat with its stock. Now the dried fish. This is looking so good right now. I'm actually going to add just a touch of water, because I didn't make a lot of meat, so there wasn't as much stock to go in. Then finally is the spinach. I don't think I'm going to need all of this. So then I'm going to leave it again to cook for another 10-15 minutes. And we'll be ready to eat. This looks so good. Okay, let me not forget actually the crayfish and the rest of the locust bean root seeds. amazing. That looks so good. I'm gonna cover that and leave it for another 10 minutes. That's really just to allow the spinach to cook through. You can actually pre-cook the spinach and put it in, and then it'll be ready to eat pretty much straight away. I want everything to kind of soak in the juices, the meats, the dried fish, so I prefer to do it this way. And we're done. Woo! This looks absolutely delicious. Actually, I say we're done, not quite, because we need a swallow of fufu to eat this with. And today it's going to be pounded yam. Okay, so for our swallow to go along with our egusi soup, I'm going to be using this pound yam flour. So it saves a lot of time. I can't get access to yam so easily in Hong Kong. So what I'm going to do is put this in boiling water, kind of pound it and bring it together to form very hard dough, and then we'll be ready to serve. So it's quite quick. And the idea is to try and pour this quickly and stir it to stop it getting lumpy. So it's good to still have a little bit of water on the side, because you're going to need to keep adding more. This gets quite tough. So traditionally, pounded yam is actually made from fresh yams, but nowadays most swallows are from a powder. So this, I think, is called amala when it's from yam powder. Last time I made a swallow, I made it with gari, and that was eba, which was the dried cassava. If you take the dried cassava and you ground it to a powder, that is also another form of amala. So I'm going to add a little bit more water and just cover this for 3 minutes and let it steam through. Okay, so that's been in there for about 3 minutes steaming. So I just pound it one last time. When I was little and helping mum in the kitchen, this was my gym workout. Okay, I think we're ready. Time to serve up and eat. There we go. Amala, pounded yam with egusi soup. I am so ready to tuck in. So I've already washed my hands, and this is a meal that is eaten with hands, and it tastes so much better when you eat it with your hands. Okay, so here we go. Oh wow. I'm not just saying that, but this is so good. So tasty. So tasty. I can't remember the last time I ate this, so it's bringing back so many memories. And then there's just bits of meat in there, the mutton, we have fish as well. Oh, the salt cod. What's so great about this meal is that it's so flavorful already on its own. Then once in a while, you come across the little bits of the salt cod, and it's just another explosion of just this intense seafood flavor. So good. And what's nice about the pounded yam is that apart from helping you to scoop this up and eat it, so obviously it's a very mild flavor, so it kind of calms down a little bit and gives your mouth a little bit of a break from just the intense awesome flavors of this dish. Okay guys, I know there are YouTube videos where people just sit and watch others eat. Mine is more focused on the process of cooking, explanations about why things are done in a certain way. So I'm switching off and I'm going to finish eating this meal. Don't forget to like and to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and your support over all these weeks. See you next time.